All right, boys and girls, it's now November 4th. We just did a video a couple days ago about some recent Oscar changes. And now that we're really into the second phase here, the early frontrunner stage, we're going to begin to kind of take the tech categories a little bit more in depth here. I've kind of just occasionally kind of rattled off on those. And also, it's occurred to me, it's like we haven't really brought up documentary feature yet or animated feature. Um, and then the short categories too. The shorts I kind of just kind of leave those until about December or January when we kind of get closer to the nominations and when we have the kind of short lists and everything we have on those, we get a little more detail. Because right now it's kind of just okay, whatever short played in front of X film or whatever, if it played or whatever. So yeah, we've got all that to consider there. All right, so we've got the tech categories today that we'll get into, and then also animated feature and documentary feature. Okay, so let's actually start with those two. Animated feature, I don't know why I haven't brought this one up, but I feel like, you got Pixar at it again with Incredibles 2. It's a billion-dollar plus hit. Brad Bird, who's won this award, I believe, 2 or 3 times, so it's like, yeah, it makes sense. It'll probably win. Wes Anderson, though, has become a recent favorite of the Academy, especially with Grand Budapest doing very well. So I think Isle of Dogs is going to be a big player there. It's the only one I think right now that can top Incredibles 2 unless Disney really wants some infighting with the Wreck-It Ralph sequel, which comes out actually in a few weeks. I get the sense that one will be good though too. Yeah, because Incredibles 2 was a big critical hit. Isle of Dogs was a critical hit. Let's see. The other two nominees I have right now are the animated Spider-Man film because it's hitting in December. It's a different studio. It's Sony. Has that different look to it. Kind of the animation style is kind of going for comic book meets 3D animation meets. It's kind of a little bit of everything. And I remember the first preview trailer that came out, like the first teaser, excuse me, was really good, and I'm like, wow, I'm really into this, not just story-wise, but also animation-wise. Then that second trailer came out, and for whatever reason, it's like the animation style was totally, I don't know, it's like it didn't get rendered properly or something, because that second trailer came out, and I'm like, I'm still into the story idea, which is really cool, having, Peter Parker and Miles Morales and all the other, Spider-Gwen and all the rest of them in there. I'm down for that. But it's just that the animation just didn't look finished in that second trailer. It's the first theatrical trailer, whatever. I hate how they do that nowadays. Just call it first trailer, second trailer, third trailer, and you should know what I mean. But it's like, no, then people ask, do you mean the theatrical trailer? Do you mean the official trailer? Do you mean the teaser trailer? Do you mean the fuck you trailer? I mean the fuck you trailer. That's what I mean. Yeah, I hate all that shit. But anyways, then this most recent trailer came out, the third one, and this one looks just like the first one did. It looks like it's completed. It looks good. So yeah, we'll see. I'll probably go see it, but I'm not 100% invested yet. And then you've also got Mirai, I believe is how it's pronounced. It's we usually get an anime or a Japanese production in there usually. So that one is one that's been brought up a lot. So I'm putting that one in too. Let's see some other potentials. We've got Early Man, that's Aardman Animation. They, Wallace and Gromit has been, in the short categories, has been a big winner there. And then the the feature, Wallace and Gromit film, of course, won a little over a decade ago. So that's one to keep in mind. Smallfoot Animation from Warner Brothers sometimes gets a slot, not always. I can't remember if the Hotel Transylvania movies get in. I don't think the second one got in, but I'm not going to look it up right now. But that's one to consider as well. And then The Grinch is Illumination Animation, which has been consistently nominated over the past few years with like Sing and or was Sing, did Sing get in? I thought it did, but I know that like Despicable Me and the second one, I believe, both got in, if I'm remembering correctly. So yeah, so those are a couple to keep in mind there. Okay, over to doc feature. I think from day one we all knew this category was going to go to the Fred Rogers doc. Won't You Be My Neighbor? And I think it's still looking that way. Still haven't sat down to see it yet, but I'm really hoping I can get to see it soon. I know it's out on disc, so I can probably just go to Redbox or something and go pick a copy out. So I do really want to see it though. I've always been a big fan of Fred Rogers. So, yep. Then we've got Free Solo is out now, and that's really doing well at the box office. And usually with a documentary feature like this, if it does very well at the box office, like Amy did a few years ago, March of the Penguins is a classic example of that. If it really scores with audiences, it usually gets in. So those two, I think, are sure bets at this point. Three Identical Strangers also made some money over the summer, and it's been a critical hit as well. So I think that's going to get in. There's one out there called Minding the Gap, which is starting to really pick up steam now, so I'm putting that one in. And I'm also considering we saw the Amy Whitehouse doc one a few years ago. There's also one out there called Whitney on Whitney Houston this year, so that's one I'm keeping an eye on. Those are my 5 for now. But there's like RBG, which is Ruth Bader Ginsburg. We've also got the On the Basis of Sex movie coming out in a couple of months, or on Christmas Day. So that's one, maybe there's some overlap there, I don't know. And then Crime and Punishment is one I've been hearing about, and The Price of Everything are a couple more I've heard about, but I don't, kind of like with the short categories, I don't always get into the specifics on doc feature. I kind of just go with the flow unless I think there's something that stands out. Okay, then we'll get into the actual tech categories now. So cinematography is usually one of the top ones I'll focus on, and I think this year we're going to go with Roma as the early frontrunner here. I think Karan shot the film as well as directing, co-writing, co-producing, and editing it. So, did I say editing already? I can't remember. But he did five things on the film, and he could be historically looking at the first person ever nominated for 5 different categories in the same film in the same year. So yeah, there's been quite a few. Like Warren Beatty, I think, was nominated 4 times for Reds, for acting, producing. He won for directing and screenplay, I believe. I think so. Yeah. Anyways, so I think Karan is going to win here on that, and Roma does look like it's a beautifully shot film. Linus Sandgren, First Man, cinematographer, I have in second place, even though kind of thinking over the film, some of the camera work is a little shoddy to me, but I like that kind of grainy film style that they went for. He had kind of a similar approach on the Battle of the Sexes movie last year. That didn't get nominated, but he's back with Giselle, and he won for La La Land a couple of years ago, so I think that'll pull through. Beale Street Could Talk is my 3rd place pick. Same guy who did Moonlight, James Laxton. So I think he's a good pick there. And then I have The Favorite and Black Panther in 4th and 5th. Now, Rachel Morrison was the cinematographer on Black Panther, and of course, historically last year she was the first woman nominated for cinematography for Mudbound. And I think Black Panther, is going to do very well across the tech categories. So that one I have in. And The Favorite, I think, is also going to be one where it's just kind of each of the tech branches will kind of just say, yep, yep, yep. So that's my 5 there. Now, Star is Born is one that a lot of people are talking about in this category, too. I don't know for the win, but definitely for a nomination. And, I think it was, a lot of the shots, look good and everything, but that wasn't in particular one of my favorite parts of the film. Also, we sometimes get a foreign film nominated here, like, what was it called? Ida, was that what it was called? The one that won foreign language film a couple of years ago. That one was nominated for cinematography as well. And then Green Book is also one, if it really gets a big Best Picture push, a nomination like cinematography could definitely show that. Okay, so that's that one. Film editing, I'm kind of going out on a limb here and going with Widows, actually. Joe Walker is the editor here. He was nominated twice before for 12 Years a Slave and Arrival, and especially with Arrival, that year, that category was kind of all over the place. It ended up going to Hacksaw Ridge, but I had La La Land winning, but I thought Arrival maybe had a shot of maybe splitting the vote there, but it ended up not. So yeah, Joe Walker, he's worked on those. He's worked on some Eastwood films, if I'm recalling correctly. So yeah, he's done a lot of stuff lately. And I think he's starting to make a name for himself with the editor's branch, so I think that's going to go over well. Then I have Beale Street in 2nd place. Again, same ones from Moonlight. Roma's in 3rd, so Karan will get a nomination there. I don't know if he can win that one. He just won for co-editing Gravity a few years ago. Then I do have Star is Born in for film editing right now. It's Jay Cassidy, who's this will be his 4th nomination. He got the 2 for Silver Linings and American Hustle with David O. Russell. and then he was also nominated for Into the Wild a few years before that. And he's been editing like a few other. I thought there was one other Bradley Cooper film. Well, probably I think he was editor on Joy too, another David O. Russell one. So yeah, I think Cooper kind of brought him along in the process there. And then I have The Favorite in there for fifth place, kind of the standard one there. Now, actually, the front runner right now from a few different lists I've seen, either it's First Man or it's Black Panther, believe it or not. And both of those, I don't have either one of those in, but you've got, it's Tom Cross for First Man. I originally had First Man in here, but then I looked at it and I'm like, well, I lowered it way down on my Best Picture list. I took it out for Director. The adapted screenplay nomination is not a lock anymore. I don't think I think it'll get in, but the only one that can really, I think, at this point take it down is that has the buzz to it. A Star Is Born, but I just think that screenplay was just weak enough. I think that some of the writers branch won't really appreciate it. So I still have that one, and so I took out editing too. I think this could actually be one of the few tech categories that First Man doesn't get nominated in. Then yeah, Black Panther. I think it's just because of the other films listed. I think they kind of just booted out just barely there. Then we've got Vice. We've got Hank Corwin was the editor there. He also was nominated for The Big Short, so we have to keep that in mind. And then again, Green Book, if that gets a big tech push, film editing I think would fall in line. And then Black Klansman, I like the editing in that too, so that might get recognized here. Okay, going over to the design categories, we'll start with costume design. I've got The Favorite out front. I think this will be an easy pick here right now. Sandy Powell is the costume designer here. This would be her 13th nomination, and if she wins for this, it'd be her 4th Oscar win. She's a legend in this category. I do have Black Panther in second place. That's Ruth E. Carter. This would be her 3rd nomination. Then you've got Mary Queen of Scots as my 3rd place pick here. Now, just because I pulled Mary Queen of Scots out of actress and supporting actress, that doesn't mean I think it gets nothing. I think it'll do okay here in these tech categories. Like I have this one in, and maybe 1 or 2 more. Then I've got Mary Poppins Return in here as well, and Colette as well. Colette is one, it's Keira Knightley and everything. That one, did okay at the box office. The Best Actress is just too crowded this year, I think, for Keira to strike her, be her 3rd, I believe her 3rd nomination. But I think the costumes could easily get in. It's kind of, you look at this, and Mary Queen of Scots and The Favorite is kind of those period pieces. That usually there's 1 or 2 nominees in each year. Like W.E., I remember, was like the only nomination for that film was costumes, and Anonymous, I think, was another one like that. So even if it's not a great film or if it's not a big push in other categories, they'll usually give it that one. So yeah, a couple other ones. You've got, of course, Colleen Atwood back for Fantastic Beasts sequel. She, of course, kind of upset it a couple years ago for the first Fantastic Beasts, so never count her out. Bohemian Rhapsody, I talked about it a little bit last time, but I thought the costumes were pretty good in that, so that could get nominated. And then Nutcracker in the Four Realms is one I'm really looking at too. Just opened this weekend. Didn't do fantastically well, but we've seen like Alice in Wonderland was nominated here, and a couple of those other kind of films like that. So keep those in mind. Over to production design now, I have The Favorite also nominated for this one and winning the category right now. And then Black Panther again is my 2nd place pick here. I think those two are definitely considerations there. I do have First Man in for this one though. I think a lot of like the NASA stuff, production design wise, was good, and especially the stuff, not that it's a spoiler, but like how they did the moon landing and how they really captured the sense of you're on the moon, I think was brilliant work. And actually, this was Nathan Crowley. I looked up a couple of the names here. Nathan Crowley is the production designer on First Man, and this would be his 5th nomination, and all of his other nominations were for Christopher Nolan films like Prestige, Inception, Interstellar, and Dunkirk, if I'm remembering correctly. So he's a favorite of the branch here. And then I do have Mary Poppins Returns in there as well, and Mary Queen of Scots in 5th place. So those are the ones I'm going with there. And then, of course, you've got Stuart Craig, the production designer on all the Harry Potter films, is back again for Fantastic Beasts, so keep that in mind. One pick I'm kind of really rooting for though would be Crazy Rich Asians. That one I know it's like Best Picture is kind of a long shot at this rate. Adapted screenplay is a possibility, but again, it's a little bit of a long shot at this rate. Yeah, I don't know. Michelle Yeoh might get in for supporting actress, but this could be one category where I could see it realistically getting in. This and original score. We'll get to that in a little bit. But yeah, especially like the wedding scene, which is it comes in about the last half hour or so. The wedding was just gorgeously designed there. I really like that. Um, yeah, so that could get in. It's not a again, it's a little bit of a long shot, but it's a little more realistic than some of those other categories. Then you've got Nutcracker in the Four Realms is also in play here, and maybe Isle of Dogs. I mean, it's not very common, and no examples are coming to mind for me of animated films that get in for production design, but that's one I could see kind of breaking the mold there. They do like Wes Anderson, especially in that category. Okay, speaking of original score, that's my next category here. First Man, I think, is out front with Justin Hurwitz back in action again. He scored 2 Oscar wins for La La Land. I can see him picking up his 3rd Oscar for this. Really, this was one of the best parts of First Man was the original score. And then Black Panther's my second place pick right now. It's Ludwig Göransson, who's I think really up and coming as a composer now. This would be his first nomination, and I think it's due for this. I think again, Black Panther, I thought, as a comic book film, kind of had a few kind of cliches here and there just as a comic book film. But I felt, yeah, especially in like the production design, costume design, score aspects of it, it really stood out above a lot of recent efforts. So that's one I'm keeping in mind. Beale Street is my third place pick. That's another Moonlight alum with Nicholas Britell. And if that last trailer they put out a little over a month ago or 2 months ago, now I can't remember when, it was after Toronto had been played out. If the original score and as long as it wasn't Temp's score in the trailer, if that's actually from the film, I think yeah, that'll definitely get in. And then I'm kind of taking a gamble with Mary Poppins Returns here because there's a couple things to keep in mind. Number one, we don't know how much in this sequel, how much of the score is going to be original, and if maybe it's just all lifted from the original film, which in case it would be disqualified in that case. And also it's 2 composers, Mark Shaman and Scott Whitman. Usually they don't get away with that. Usually they just like one composer nominated in the category. Like The Revenant was kind of one they said no to. Blade Runner 2049 last year was one they kind of said no to. They didn't like. I know Revenant got knocked off the list because of a couple other things where it was like some of the music was actually taken from something else, or there was some reason like that. But it's like, well, also it had 2 composers, so they don't like that. And I do have Hans Zimmer getting in for Widows as well in this category. His 12th nomination if he gets this one, so that's one to consider. I don't know if it's for the win necessarily. It's kind of like Dunkirk or Interstellar in the last few years where it's like he'll get nominated, but he doesn't win. Let's see, then we've got Alexander Desplat back in play again this year for Isle of Dogs. But it's one, I haven't seen the film yet either, but it's I think it's a film that's really pushing for that animated feature category, and I think that might be the only one. But just in case, Desplat, he's got 2 Oscar wins now, including last year for Shape of Water, so he's one that they really like. Then you got Alan Silvestri's got a couple of scores this year. He's got Ready Player One, which I really like the movie, but I thought the score had some pretty standout moments. He's also got Welcome to Marwin, which we haven't seen yet, but that's when he teamed up with Zemeckis again, and of course he was nominated a couple of times for those films like Back to the Future and Forrest Gump and so on. But he's also got Avengers: Infinity War, which is one. There's a couple of really good tracks on that soundtrack that I really like. So that's one. Kind of a little bit of a personal push for me, but I don't think it's if it doesn't get nominated, it's bullshit thing. No, it was good. And then Michael Giacchino's in again for Incredibles 2. I do not believe the first film got in for score, but yeah, we'll see. And then I did mention Brian Tyler for Crazy Rich Asians. It's kind of got that classy kind of 40s and late 30s jazz style scores, which sometimes the Academy might respond to. So keep that in mind. Okay, original song is, again, kind of a question mark category at this rate. We've got 3 songs that were registered for A Star is Born, and that's about the biggest news I've heard out of this category here. So I think the early frontrunner on this is probably going to be Shallow. The song, it's kind of the first song that Cooper and Gaga do together in the film. Then you've also got Always Remember Us This Way and I'll Never Love Again as the two other entries. Now, I think kind of like La La Land a couple years ago, where two songs got in and then whatever else was on the short list they didn't consider. I think it'll probably be the same for Star Is Born. I don't see him going all the way unless it's a really weak year for songs. I think they'll just stick with two. Um, and of the two, I think Shallow and I'll Never Love Again. I think is the last one in the film. Those two, I think they'll go for. But it's I don't know. I can't remember now. Whatever song was the final one as the credits came up or whatever. I can't say the specific scene because it's kind of a spoiler if you haven't seen the film. So it's that last song that plays as the movie ends. I can't remember if it's I'll Never Love Again or if it's Always Remember Us This Way. I believe it's I'll Never Love Again, but whichever one it is, that's the one I think we'll get in, as well as Shallow, which again I think will win at this rate. Okay, then we've got Sia has a song for Vox Lux. We don't know the title or anything about that yet, but that probably will get in. It's kind of a, it's one, Natalie Portman is a shot for supporting actress. She has to build up a little more steam first, but, I think if the film's on their radar in that rate, I think the song branch might look at it, music branch will. And we'll see about Mary Poppins Returns. I think they've got, they announced a couple of tracks off of the soundtrack, and I don't know which one to pick, but whichever one I think will come out here probably in the next few weeks, we'll probably learn which one Disney wants to push for, so that one will get in. And then just to fill out the category, I kind of looked through, and On the Basis of Sex, speaking of that one, has a song by Kesha on it called Here Comes the Change. Sounds like a big empowerment song like the one from Mudbound last year and Glory from Selma, so it sounds like that. And again, it's kind of got that push for women women empowerment there. So I think that will score over well with the Academy. So I'll put that one out there. Okay, we've got 4 categories left here, so we'll skip to the next one, which is makeup and hairstyling. Every year they put out that fucking short list, which knocks out some of the best achievements of the year. They always screw themselves with this category, but I have Vice out front for now. It's got even though Christian Bale's look is mostly just his own work with like the weight and shaving the eyebrows off and all that. You've also got Amy Adams, Sam Rockwell, Steve Carell. They look like they go through some makeup stuff in the film. So I think that will get in. That's my front runner right now. Then I do have Nutcracker and the Four Realms in there as well. It looks like a very makeup heavy film, especially from the trailers and stuff. And then Mary Queen of Scots is my third pick, especially when you see like Margot Robbie in the trailer. It's like you don't even recognize her. Let's see, then looking through the favorite, it's another kind of period piece, kind of costume piece like that, so that's one to keep in mind. Black Panther has a few makeup effects and kind of some hairstyling ideas that could get in. Wrinkle in Time, especially with like Oprah and that stuff, could get in. One I saw this year that I enjoyed at least was Chappaquiddick, and there's the Bruce Dern character who plays the father Kennedy. He in real life went through a stroke, and so they kind of get some of the effects on that. Again, I don't know if it'll qualify or not, but that's one I personally enjoyed. Deadpool 2, keep that in mind. The first one, I believe, was kind of robbed of a nomination a couple years ago. Then Bohemian Rhapsody, maybe, we'll see. They go through all the stuff with different hairstyles for the group, and then with, of course, with Freddie Mercury's stuff, that might get in. And then, of course, you got Fantastic Beasts. You've also got Mary Poppins, which might qualify for that. And then Destroyer is one I have on here, too, just in case, because it looks like Nicole Kidman kind of goes through not only an emotional transformation in the film, but also a physical one. So that's one I have on there just in case. Okay, then we get to the sound categories, sound mixing. I have First Man out front here. You look at, outer space movies have really done well in the past few years here in these categories. Gravity swept sound mixing and editing. Interstellar was nominated in both categories. The Martian was nominated in both categories in the past few years. So I think First Man will have no problem getting nominated there. It's also my pick to win right now. And then Star is Born, since this sound mixing is the musical category where those traditionally win. La La Land almost did, but it didn't. And then you've got like Ray won this category. You can go back to Bird from the late 80s won. I believe, didn't Dreamgirls also win this, I believe? So yeah, keep that in mind for A Star is Born. That could easily win here. Black Panther I have in third, as kind of those comic book movies sometimes get into the sound categories. And then Mary Poppins Returns I have in here, and then I have A Quiet Place in for fifth place. Because that film kind of relies on the sound and stuff. So that one is one I'd keep in mind. Then we've got Incredibles 2 is one to consider. The Pixar movies sometimes get into these sound categories. Roma, Widows, The Favorite, Bohemian Rhapsody. I've also got Ready Player One on there, Avengers: Infinity War maybe, and then Mission Impossible Fallout are some to consider there. So that's a lot to work with in that category. Sound editing, I have First Man here. Then I have Black Panther in second, Mission Impossible Fallout in third, Incredibles 2 in fourth, and Avengers: Infinity War in fifth. And then I've got Quiet Place on the runners-up list. Then Star is Born could get in. Again, it'd be like La La Land, where it's just that rare case where the musical gets in for sound editing. Usually, it's just sound mixing. Roma is one to consider as well. Ready Player One and Widows again kind of has that heist, a lot of gunfire and stuff that could get in for sound editing. Okay, last category here is visual effects. This is one where I'm going to put Black Panther out front. I have it nominated, and I think, let's see, the two sound categories, the two design categories. I've got it in for cinematography and picture. So this would be 7 nominations if I'm counting up correctly. Score, too. I have that. That would be 8. Yeah, I don't have it in for editing, so yeah. Yeah, that'd be 8 nominations. And none of those other ones I have it in first place for, but I think I'll put it up front for this one. Then Infinity War is also one to keep in mind here. So this would be, I believe, the first Marvel film to win this category. If it's either one of those, I don't see the Ant-Man and the Wasp getting in here. Yeah, and really, usually we have like a film that comes out late, which is kind of a big awards player. Like, we saw last year with Blade Runner kind of came in October there. Then you had, usually it's kind of one of those kind of more prestige films like Interstellar that'll win the category and stuff. But this year it's like we don't really have that. I mean, you do have like Fantastic Beasts in there. You've got Nutcracker in the Four Realms, but neither one of those I think are going to be in the Best Picture lineup. Really, the only one that I can see getting into Best Picture and then visual effects would maybe be Mary Poppins. Maybe, but then again, its Best Picture chances right now are pretty slim. And visual effects, I don't know how much visual effects there's going to be in the film. And if so, there might be a few more visual effects heavy films that I think could outpower it in that category. So I've got, so again, going back to what's going to get in, though, I have Black Panther in first, Avengers in second, and then I have Ready Player One in third because it's Spielberg. Usually his films, if they're heavy visual effects-wise, they'll usually get in. Aquaman in fourth because that's another December release kind of coming out late in the year. And we did see, for DC properties and stuff, we did see Suicide Squad win one of these categories before. Not visual effects, but for makeup, so keep that in mind. And then Mortal Engines is one I'm going for here, actually, in this category. Now, hear me out. The film, I've seen a couple trailers for it. It looks terrible. I'm sorry, but it does. It looks absolute shit. But this is Weta Digital, produced by Peter Jackson, who's been a very, very big player in this category, going back to the Rings films and stuff, King Kong winning here and so on. So I think it'll get nominated regardless of its quality, unless it doesn't make the short list. We'll find out here in a few weeks. But I think that's one I'm, if you're scratching your head, I've got a reason why, and I think that'll hold up there. And especially, again, looking over the rest of the field here, it's like, there's no really big late hitter unless Welcome to Marwen comes in and it is a big player for like picture or maybe actor, director or something weird like that. I don't know if it will be. Right now I don't think it will. And even then the effects on that, I mean, Small Soldiers look better for Christ's sakes when it comes to dolls that are supposed to be realistic. That was 20 fucking years ago. And this, yeah, I'm just not liking it. Most of the time it's like with Christopher Robin earlier this year, I thought the effects they did on the animals, bringing them to life, those look good. But this one, no. Those dolls, no, they don't look good. And not like I'm scared of them or anything. No, it's not one of those. It's just, they just don't look appealing at all. And I think the effect is they're supposed to look appealing, but they don't. Like I said, that's why I go back to Small Soldiers. Those looked realistic. Yeah, and that's late 90s CG. Just keep that in mind. And that's also my personal opinion, too. Anyway, so yeah, we do have, like, Fantastic Beasts is a possibility here. But the first Fantastic Beast, I remember everybody said was going to get nominated. And I said those effects looked crappy. No way it gets in, and it didn't get in. So Yeah, so I'm not putting the second one in quite yet. Bumblebee is one to consider, especially, just off the trailers. It looks like it could be a decent Transformers film. God only knows. But that one could get in. Again, it's another late December hitter, so that sometimes helps your case. We mentioned Mary Poppins, Nutcracker in the Four Realms, we mentioned. And then the effects are not very heavy in both A Quiet Place and Mission Impossible, two Paramount releases there. But those are a couple I'm considering. The Mission Impossible stuff. Even though a lot of that stuff is done, for real in the camera, especially with the stunts and stuff, there's still a lot of effects in the film. So that's one to keep in mind. Then Quiet Place with a lot of the creatures and stuff that could get in, but I think it's a bit of a stretch right now. So yeah. Okay, so those are my thoughts on the tech category. So yeah, this video didn't turn out too long. Good. Because I know the last couple have been hour-plus videos, but not this time. Not this time. All right, so we still got some updates to do on the globes. I will do those at another time. But yeah. In the meantime, those are my thoughts right now on the tech categories. We'll get those added in when probably after AFI list comes out, or AFI Fest, I should say. Once that comes out here in the next couple of weeks, and we get a little more insight into, we've got On the Basis of Sex premiering there. We've got Mary Queen of Scots premiering there. Actually, real quick, let me pull up, see if they have the full lineup yet. I forget if they do. Because I know those two for sure. Let's see, I need to see what else they have. Let's see, key dates for entries. No, that's not it. So I'm trying to find it here really quick so I can, kind of go through the full film guide. Here we go. Hell, they've got all these different categories. Okay, so what else is going to be there? We've got Ballad of Buster Scruggs is there. That's already premiered. Bird Box is there. That's when I was in the other video I was talking about how Netflix is starting to push their films for theatrical distribution as well as before they go on streaming. That was one I was like, there's 3 big Netflix films still to come out, or Roma, Ballad of Buster Scruggs, and I couldn't remember the last one. It was Bird Box, which I believe has not screened yet. Let's see, unless it was at Toronto and I missed it. On the lineup there, but no, yeah, I'm not seeing that screen anywhere yet. So Bird Box is going to premiere there. I don't know. It's Suzanne Bier, who's been very, very hit and miss in the last few years. We've also got Destroyer is going to be there. That's already premiered. Mary Queen of Scots. That'll be the closing film, I believe, if I'm reading that right. On the Basis of Sex will be the opening film. Widows will be there. Green Book will be there. So those have already screened. Let's see here. What else do we have? Cold War will be there, but that's kind of, again, kind of playing for foreign language film and stuff. The Favorite will be there. Roma will be there. And Vox Lux will also be there. So I'm trying to think, anything else that I'm seeing here? Yeah, and by the way, the foreign language category, I didn't get into that very much either, but I think, yeah, Roma, no doubt, is going to win that category. And it might be, we talk about some of the pluses and minuses of Roma maybe being a Best Picture winner too. Not only is it the fact that it's a foreign language film kind of hurt it, but also it's like most of the time, if you have a contender in Best Picture that's also a foreign language film, they'll win that foreign language film category. And that's kind of an excuse for the voters at the end of the day to say, well, we've already awarded it this, so we don't need to award it Best Picture. And I think the same argument can also be made for Lady Gaga in Best Actress, where if she wins Original Song, which she probably will, one of those two will win. I believe she's a writer on all 3 of them, so she'll get an Oscar for it regardless. Again, that might hurt her chances in Best Actress too. Okay, so those are a couple other things to keep in mind. AFI Fest, that will start very soon, and I think after that we'll come back, reevaluate everything on the Oscars list, including some of these tech categories, and then we'll go from there. So that'll be it for that stuff. We'll get to Golden Globe nominations, some updates on those next time.